Alrighty, so happy Friday of the Friday of end of week 2 in CIT 82 Intro to Web Development, and also the beginning of spring break. So here at this point of before we head out to break, I thought, you know what, as an announcement, I'm actually going to do a video because I've seen some great work in this class and I've enjoyed the personas. They have been totally hilarious. And I just want to give a message before I head out to break. So, after today, after I finish up office hours today, which by the way, if you don't know when my office hours are, you can go check Simple Syllabus. I'm on the course right now up here. You can actually go and look at when they are. Friday, it is Zoom only because I work at home. That's where I'm at today. Matter of fact, you can see kind of what time it is because the sun is coming in and it's early morning. Actually, I've been up for a while. I've already got my workout in. I feel really good. By the way, moving our bodies, getting outside, getting away from these screens is important. So please balance your lives because this is part of just navigating whatever it is that I guess I found, but also science has found that we are just better humans when we move and when we get fresh air. Now, you could argue Fresno has some challenges there, but by the way, do you ever check the air? I actually do, and I actually check my internal air, but okay, enough of that. Let's talk about the course. So, a couple of things I see. It was interesting when I had you do the project kickoff. A couple of you were kind of like, why are we using, and in this case, the way you talked about it is why are we using Gen AI to create the site? Or in this case, it was actually just to create the content. You're not going to use Gen AI to actually create the site. And the reason I allow you to use Gen AI to create the content is that this is often the thing that students struggle with when they're creating sites is coming up with content. And I appreciate the feedback because now what I will do is update the instruction to say, if you want to write your own content, completely do that, right? And this is part of where learning how to first, let me say this, you are the first students going through this rewrite of my course. So your feedback actually helps inform the changes that gets done because that's iteration. We iterate, we do something, we see how well it is received. You know, if we're building something for a customer, we look at how well did the market react to that. For me, I look at the student's experience here and go, okay, I could clearly say that if you don't want to use Gen AI for creating the content, then don't. But also, we're figuring out in this class really how to use, how to write prompts. That AIM framework is one. I've actually been studying about some others, like that adversarial is actually becoming more and more because that makes you think critically about it. Anyway, I wanted to say that about that assignment because I think I read two people's comment about that, and I thought, you know what? Good time to talk about it. The other thing is that if you run into it, and I believe I said this already, but I'm going to say it again. From here to the end, only change code space. Now, by the way, in week 3, we move local, but it's still only change it in this case, VS Code, because VS Code is what we're using to do all of our coding. And if you're on code space, then you should only change your code and even your notes out on code space and use your Git workflow to push it to GitHub. Because now I've had 2 students who went out and changed GitHub and because they wanted to get the work done because they were having some challenges with the Git workflow. And when you do that, what happens is your in this case local meaning your code space or your local is now out of sync and it'll say, hey, there's a conflict. So it's fixable. There's ways to get around it. I know Brianna helped somebody in another class get through this, but just to tell you from here on out, only change it there. Now, the other thing is that I was grading this morning a free code camp, so I thought I'd bring this up. And what some of you are doing, which totally makes sense, is you're taking a print screen of this size. Now, this size depends on your screen resolution. So then if you take an image this big, because again, I'm going to try to do this correctly, of the size, the width, and the height, okay, of the browser window, which is a reflection of your resolution, when you cut it down to 500 like I want you to, it's really hard to read. So one of the things I'm going to suggest you do is pull that tab out, okay, and then grab that browser, okay, and let me just drop everything behind it so you can see this more clearly, because this will be kind of what we do soon, next week, right? So then have it and do show me the items, right? So in this case, if there's multiple, which almost every one of them are. So now when you take a print screen of just this, okay, now depending on your operating system, right? For me on a Mac, I do a keystroke of Shift Command 4, and then I take just a print screen of that. And then go through the process of resizing it. And now when you use that image in your, as your proof, updating your HTML and putting that in the right folder, then it's easier for me to read, okay, because it's a little hard. And again, this is something now I can refine in the course going forward. The other thing is when you name things, in naming standards are important, and I established this in the repo names, right? So all lowercase, no spaces. So that should be your that is our naming standard for the course. Okay. So when you're naming things, if you happen to put a space, you have to know how to tell the web browser how to, in this case, encode that. And it's a funky little %20 thing that you have to put where a space is. And until you actually went and looked at it, you wouldn't know that that's true. So just don't put spaces, don't put uppercase, put only lowercase. And in that case, it makes it more compatible across almost all platforms in this case. Now, I think somebody also had a problem with the file name being WEPG, WEB, WEPB, P, maybe, anyway, that one I use all the time. Okay, so if you're not able to see it, I'd want to know why, because that is a very common, probably JPEG, PNG, and that one are the most common that we see on the web. Anyway, just a lot of content, but just kind of reflecting some of the stuff that I've seen so far. Okay, now I've already talked about spring break, and let's go back here, right? So this was actually here, but in our course, like I said, week 3 is available. It won't be due, and I won't be grading unless I just find some downtime. Actually, I'm going to be biking. It's my favorite sport. I'm doing some biking up in Northern California, and most of the time I'm going to be during the day on a bike. But if I do get a chance, I might peek in, but don't just know that that's probably going to be infrequent. Okay, I hope that. And by the way, I hope you have a good break, because that kind of ends where I started with, which was find some balance in life, enjoy whatever comes into your life, because it is part of us being in this journey, is just enjoying whatever comes. All right, thanks so much. Have a great spring break, and I'll see you after.